Welcome back to the MyMoto Weekend Waffle, and today we are doing a Halloween special. Now, anyone who's come to the Peak District or Derbyshire on a bike will most likely have been to this place. We're coming up to, in a second, the top of Winnats Pass. Now, before we carry on, and I tell you this very chilling tale, I want you to do us a huge favour and give us a like and subscribe and leave us a comment as well. We love the interaction, and we'd love you to come back and watch some more of our videos. Now, on the left up here, there's a farm right up at the top of Winnats Pass. So there's a farm here at the top of Winnats Pass on the left. Now I want you to remember that, because that I'm going to mention in a moment. But first of all, we need to get down into Castleton, where I'll continue the story. Something I do want to mention, actually, on the way down through Winnats Pass now. So today, I mean, I've just been through some horrific fog, in the dark, through a load of fog, all for your entertainment. So that's why I think we're worth a like and a subscription. But I chose to wear this new RST Havoc Jacket with the print that it's got on it, because this print, this funky looking print, is actually reflective. So not only does it look good, it's going to help me be visible when I'm riding around in the Peak District in the middle of the night. And although it's a summer jacket, it's actually, with a few layers underneath, it's keeping me warm. It's 12 degrees, so it's not super cold, but definitely cold enough that I've needed a few base layers with this. Now, it is actually Halloween as well tonight. And look at this, Castleton is just deserted. If it wasn't spooky enough already, it's strange to see it so quiet, because you come down here at Christmas and this place is heaving and no one's around, which is quite strange. So this is where our story starts. St Edmund's Church in Castleton. And believe it or not, in there is the grave of Thomas Dramfield, who was one of my relatives. And his dad owned the farm that we've just been past up at the top of Winnats Pass. A guy called Matthew Dramfield. Now, they bought that farm in 1779, but something happened just before they bought it, which is quite interesting. And supposedly, near the gates of this church, on this side, near my ancestor's grave, there's two bodies buried. The bodies of Alan and Clara. And there's a bit of a story behind what happened to them two up on Winnats Pass. So Alan and Clara were supposedly a quite well-off couple from Scotland. I believe that Clara and her family were a little bit better off than what Alan's family were. As it often is, they loved each other and they wanted to elope and get married, regardless of what Clara's family thought. So they headed somewhere. They were heading to the Peak Forest Chapel, which is very similar to Gretna Green. You can get married without needing your banns being read. So they set off down here. They're heading towards Peak Forest Chapel. So this is in 1758, and they head down and they stay the night here in the Castle Inn before they then set off early one morning towards the Peak Forest Chapel to get married. So they've headed out here, up this road towards the Peak Forest Chapel. Now, because Alan and Clara were quite well off, they were both on horse, riding up here, and you can imagine they're going to go and get married, so they're in a nice outfit, heading to the church. Now the problem was, they were seen all dressed up, heading up here on their two horses. They had some money and the life ahead of them. So as they left Castleton, they were seen by 5 people. They were seen by James Ashton, Thomas Hall, John Bradshaw, Francis Butler and Nicholas Cook, who followed them up to Winnats Pass. So as Alan and Clara rode up this pass on their horses, they were jumped by the 5 men, and then they were taken to a nearby barn. Now, at the moment, the closest farm with a barn, it's the farm up here that my relatives used to own, but not back when Alan and Clara were taken. So they were taken to a nearby barn where they were robbed of their money. £200 in total was taken. That would have been a lot of money. So they took £200 of their money. They tortured them, abused them. Then, whilst they were pleading with the 5 men, Alan had his throat cut from ear to ear. With this being a mining town, and with then Clara being devastated by her husband's death, they decided to silence her by putting a mining pick through the top of her head, killing them both. Then the next day, the 5 men went back to the barn, took the bodies and threw them down a mine shaft. 10 years later, so in 1768, the mine that they threw the bodies down was being worked on, and they discovered the bodies. Now the 5 men, one fell into a precipice near where they'd thrown the bodies. One was hit on the head by a rock near where they pushed Alan and Clara off their horses. One went mad, and one hung himself. And the 5th man, on his deathbed, confessed to the whole ordeal. Now it's said that when you go up Winnats Pass, you can hear the voices of Clara and Alan pleading for their lives. How true this is, we'll never know. Maybe you've been up here at night, maybe you've heard them pleading. It was so bad, with Clara and Alan supposedly haunting hikers on Winnats Pass, that they actually did a seance. Now unfortunately that's not the only deaths that have occurred on Winnats Pass. In the 1920s, a young 17-year-old girl and a 26-year-old man, who again were forbode from marrying and seeing each other by her father, which, to be honest, I completely understand. There's a bit of an age gap there. came up to Winnats Pass, and actually, after finding a cave to hide in just off the side of Winnats Pass, they both drank a quantity of bleach and committed suicide. So there is so far been 4 deaths that have occurred on Winnats Pass. Bit spooky, eh? Especially when, Joe, you've ridden through it years and years and not known that it's a haunted spot. I mean, if anything, this whole place is pretty spooky looking. I mean, look at this mist. Could it get any worse? And this is what we do. So we are willing to ride through mist like this, all for your pleasure, for your MyMoto Weekend Waffle Halloween special. And it was our pleasure to do. So again, if you like the video, please leave us a like, subscribe. If you think we can do better, or you got any suggestions, leave it in the comments, and we always try and get back to the comments. As our channel's growing in popularity, it is getting harder though. We are having a lot more comments, but we will I keep working through them, and I'll eventually get through them all and make sure everyone's had an answer. Even if it's just a thank you, we'll comment back. So just to clarify as well, my family didn't own that farm at the time of the murders, and they actually owned it shortly after the bodies were discovered. But it does make you wonder if, when the bodies were discovered and it all came out what happened, the person who owned the farm might have realised what had happened in his farm that night and decided to get rid of the farm. Although this Havoc jacket is a summer jacket, it's actually it's doing alright. I used to have the front line, which I bought as a summer jacket, and it turned out, with the Kevlar lining, it was actually almost like a mid-season jacket. In the summer it got too hot. In the winter it almost coped, but the majority of the year the front line jacket was perfect. I think what they've done with this soft shell Havoc jacket is made something that it's lightweight. It's even more of an everyday jacket than what the front line was. They also come in plain black and grey. Now I used to have the grey in the front line. Quite like the grey version in the Havoc as well, to be honest. Something they have done as well with this over the front line, it's got much bigger pockets. Some of the pockets on the front line were quite small. This Havoc, massive pockets, like really big. So no problem with, if you had a Galaxy Note, it would still fit in. So yeah, cracking jacket. Let us know if there's any other kit that we stock that you'd like to see tested. Put it in the comments and we'll get on it. If you want to see a more detailed close-up look at this in the studio, again, just leave it in the comments and I'll do a close video. And with that, from a very dark, foggy night, it's good night from me. Thanks for watching. Until next time, ride safe.